On the night after my graduate thesis defense, I broke up with Emily Carter. She thought it was just because I helped Ryan Kim revise his resume and not her. She raised an eyebrow and laughed like she always did when she assumed I was bluffing. Seriously, she smirked, don't regret it. She didn't know that the resume thing was just a cover. I had already updated my own resume and submitted it to a firm located in the farthest city from her. This time, I wasn't bluffing. I was done. The coffee shop beneath her office was flooded with afternoon sunlight, and the golden rays cut across her cheekbones just like the old days when I thought she was the center of my world. She stirred her coffee slowly, looked up at me with those eyes, and asked with fake innocence, "James, is it really that serious?" I didn't hesitate. "Yeah, I want to break up." She tilted her chin, gave me that condescending look like I was being dramatic. "How many times is this now? 8th? 9th? 10th? Come on, James. You've been threatening to leave me for over 10 years. She leaned back on the couch like she had me all figured out. "You can't live without me." But that's the thing, people think they can't live without someone until they do. "That's not true," I said, "you can live without anyone." She shrugged, like she'd heard it all before. "Fine. Don't come crawling back." As I stood up to leave, Ryan walked in, clutching some folder like it was an Oscar nomination. "Oh hey, Emily, the interview strategy for that overseas firm you helped me with, can you take another look?" She didn't say anything, but her gaze lingered on me. Old me would have exploded. But today, I was just exhausted. I turned to walk out, but Ryan stopped me. "James, don't get me wrong. Emily and I are just friends." He looked so damn innocent, like some puppy that needed shelter. "I'm not close with anyone else. She's just been helping me with this job hunt. It's a big opportunity for someone like me who came from nothing." He rambled about how she helped him do mock interviews until her voice turned hoarse, about how she sat with him when he had a fever and needed an IV, about how she picked ties for him and how they were just friends. I snapped. "Friends? You practice interviews at her place every night till 11. You call her when you're sick, when your tie's crooked, when I'm supposed to be dating her. Do you not have any friends or family of your own? You're not her boyfriend, man. You're her driver's kid." Ryan's face turned red as he lowered his head, shoulders trembling like he was about to cry. Emily grabbed a tissue and handed it to him with a sigh. "James, I know your mouth's sharp, but stop bullying good people." His teardrop hit the table with a soft, pathetic plop. I walked out into the humid air, the weight in my chest unbearable. I slept all afternoon. When I woke up that night, the first thing I saw was Ryan's new social media post, "First time playing poker. Thanks for not looking down on a poor nerd like me. The world's bigger than just books." In the photo, his wrist made a peace sign, showing off a watch. My watch. The limited edition I gave Emily last year. I stared at it, rage and disbelief crawling under my skin. Then, right on cue, Emily texted me, "Send me your resume so I can check it for you." Oh, so now I existed. After she'd spent 5 hours coaching someone else for his big moment. Her profile pic was still the same one I took of her in the snow, smiling like the world belonged to her. I hovered my thumb over the screen and dragged her into my block list. Cold. Done. Later, my uncle saw me downstairs during supper and asked why my eyes were red. "Too much sleep." "Graduation stress," I muttered. He slid the hot soup toward me. "You know," he said, "Emily's always been the least troublesome girl. Her family pulled strings to get her into Funting Group. But you worked like hell just to stay in the same city. You gave up other offers, studied like mad every day, ran yourself into the ground. You've always given more." I lowered my chopsticks and told him the truth, "Uncle, I already got an offer." A top securities firm in North City. His chopsticks froze mid-air. North City. That's far. I can separate my future from my feelings, I said flatly. If my background check clears, I'm leaving next week. He paused, then nodded slowly. My phone buzzed again. Nathan Brooks. Come to the graduation party, he said. Time to unwind. So I showed up at the club, half dead inside. Nathan told me to grab drinks, and while I was filling ice at the bar, I heard a familiar laugh. Emily. He blocked me, she was saying. It's probably James. That man's too stubborn for his own good. Why this time? Someone asked. I helped Ryan Kim revise his resume. That's it. They all laughed. One guy said, to be honest, all my buddies think Ryan's the ideal boyfriend. Gentle. Thoughtful. Dependable. I walked back to the table without saying a word. Inside the VIP room, Nathan was already shouting at a waiter. Ryan again. What a surprise. We ordered Black Label, and you brought Jack Daniels. James is allergic, man. Everyone knows that. Ryan stammered. It's a busy night. I got flustered. If I mess up again, I lose my whole commission. Please, James, just let this one go. Let it go. I said coldly. Why should I? You messed up. I didn't order this. You think I should drink something I'm allergic to because you need the money? He looked miserable. I need to work. Rent. Bills. Every dollar matters. Then don't screw up. I kept my voice steady, but sharp. Chenze caught it before I drank it. If I had, we'd be on our way to the ER. And you'd be out of more than commission, believe me. Ryan bowed his head and mumbled something. Emily showed up again, trying to calm the situation. It's just a mistake, she said softly, don't blow up at him because of me. You think I'm doing this because of you? I shot back. You think I'm mad because you helped him? No. I'm mad because you never drew the line. I was your boyfriend, but he always came first. You made me feel like a placeholder. She was silent. Ryan pulled his little act again, all sniffles and humility. I'll take care of the drinks, he offered, like he was some martyr. I'd had enough. I grabbed my coat and left the room. Nathan caught up with me on the street. I'm sorry, man. Should have just ordered another glass and avoided this whole mess. I kept walking. Why do you think I didn't stop him earlier? Because he cries? Because he's the poor kid, and I'm the privileged jerk? No. I didn't stop because I broke up with her today. Nathan fell silent. You serious? Yeah. Damn, he sighed, no one's gonna believe it, James. Not after all these years. And honestly. Are you really ready to let her go? That question haunted me the rest of the ride home. But I already knew the answer. I was ready to let go. I had to. The first time I met Emily Carter, I was 10, soaking wet and shaking after I jumped into the lake near my uncle's house, trying to drown the guilt of knowing I was the reason my parents died. It was my birthday. They were driving home from my party when the accident happened. People in the neighborhood didn't hide their whispers, didn't spare me their pity, or their blame. That night, I'd had enough. I wanted out. But Emily found me by the water, grabbed me hard, and didn't let go. From that moment on, that 5-year-old girl followed me like a shadow. Even when I yelled, cursed, threw rocks at her, she stayed. The Liu family, her family begged her to give up on me. But she wouldn't. I'm his big sister. I'll protect him, she said, puffing up like she could take on the world. A couple years later, a bunch of kids called me a bad omen, said I was cursed. Emily didn't even hesitate. She tackled them to the ground, bloody and bruised, shouting, "His parents are my parents." I stared at her like she was insane. She smiled through the pain and said, "You'll marry me one day, won't you?" That was the moment I softened. I reached out, pulled her up, and we held hands. From then on, we were inseparable until Ryan Kim showed up. He was the son of the Liu family's driver, and during the first year of our grad program, he moved in. I still remember the moment I knew something was off. It was Emily's birthday. I had bought her a rare gift, planned a surprise visit, and hid in the entrance closet to wait. Then I heard Ryan's voice. "Happy birthday, Emily. I made this model of your old family house myself. I know it's not worth as much as James's gift, but I stayed up for nights working on it." Her voice was warm and appreciative. The thought matters more than the price. That was all it took to make my blood boil. I pushed open the door and stepped out. So now we're comparing gifts. Mine's expensive but not thoughtful enough. Really? Ryan looked panicked. I didn't mean it like that. Emily sent him off and turned to me with a laugh. I don't like him, James. His life hasn't been easy. Dad asked me to look after him. That's all. She promised it'd just be 3 years. But those 3 years became the longest emotional hell I've ever lived through. Every time we had a moment together, Ryan found a way in. His thesis needed revising. His laptop broke. He got a fever. He had a stomach bug. And every time, Emily dropped everything for him. And every time I dared to say something, I was the bad guy. The jealous boyfriend. The irrational one. "He's just a friend," she said over and over. "He doesn't have anyone else." What's the big deal? The big deal was that every time she chose to help him, she was choosing not to be there for me. When we won a joint project and I booked a dinner to celebrate, Ryan called her midway crying about a busted pipe and she ditched me without a second thought. When I got sick, she'd text. When he got sick, she showed up with meds and stayed overnight. And every time I brought it up, I was met with a wall. "You're overthinking," she'd say. "You're too sensitive." I tried changing. Tried being understanding. I broke up with her. Got back together. Over and over. It wasn't that I couldn't live without her, it was that I didn't know how to stop loving her. We'd spent so many years wrapped up in each other that peeling myself away felt like flaying skin from bone. I thought if I could just hold on a little longer, she'd remember that I was the one who'd always been there. That maybe one day she'd wake up and finally choose me over him. But then came the final blow. I was knee-deep in a major project, and things went south bad. We were on the verge of losing everything. I called Emily more than a dozen times that night, needing her, not just emotionally, but professionally. She didn't answer. I stayed up until dawn fixing the mess myself. Only later did I find out she was helping Ryan with a mock interview. Just a mock interview. Just another favor. She never even asked what I went through that night. That was it. That was the last crack. Something inside me snapped. It wasn't even anger, Anna Marie, it was clarity. The kind that only comes after you've been burned enough times to feel nothing. I sent in my final documents to the North City job and didn't tell a soul. I played the part, attended family dinners, even went to Mr. Carter's birthday banquet because our families had known each other forever. I wasn't going to be petty. But when I walked into that banquet and saw Ryan sitting in the seat that used to be mine right next to Emily, I knew I made the right call. I kept it civil. Sat across the table, smiled through it all. Emily tried to pretend like nothing had changed. "So, what, James? You gonna ignore me for 2 weeks and then act like this is normal?" I stayed silent. She touched my foot under the table like old times. I moved it away. She didn't get it. She never did. Later, Mr. Carter bragged about Ryan landing an interview at the same investment firm thanks to Emily's coaching. Ryan blushed like a saint. Sister Emily helped me practice every detail. Salary negotiation, technical questions. She even stayed up to simulate full interviews. I owe her everything. Then they turned to me. What about you, James? What's your plan? Emily jumped in before I could speak. He has an offer from Bluffing Group too, she said proudly. Of course, he'll take it. It's a great match. I smiled. Actually, no. I've accepted an offer from Dingxing in North City. Silence. Emily blinked, like the air had been knocked out of her. North City. Why? Better opportunity. And it's mine. I earned it. Ryan chimed in with some nonsense about giving back to the economy, how he'd use his career to help elders with financial planning. I almost laughed. That's noble, I said. I'm just trying to build something that's mine. No speeches. After the banquet, Emily caught me in the garden. Okay, you've had your moment. Add me back. I looked at her like she was a stranger. We're done, Emily. Haven't you heard the saying? The best kind of ex is one who's as quiet as a ghost. She tried to smile, tried to grab my arm like it would magically reset everything. I'm going for training next month. I'll be gone for half a year. If you don't unblock me now, you'll regret it. I pulled away. You can go wherever you want. I'm not waiting anymore. Then Ryan's voice-off course popped up out of nowhere like a cursed ringtone. Can I come with you when you start work? Emily was stunned. Ryan, no. The car's full. I only have one suitcase, he said, all hopeful and sincere. James probably has a lot. I can ride with Emily. That was the moment I realized Ryan had no shame. I laughed bitterly. You two go ahead. I'll take the subway. I walked off. Emily ran after me, still clinging to some fantasy. I'll see you off that day. It's important. I have to. I didn't even turn around. Sure, bring Ryan. He can cry in the back seat. She snapped, why should I? He's not my boyfriend. I turned to face her. You sure? Because you've been acting like he is. She hesitated, then whispered, I didn't help with your resume because I thought you didn't need it. You're my boyfriend, I believed in you. Yeah. I said. You sure as hell didn't act like it. Then her voice dropped low, smug, confident like she still thought she was winning. We'll both be at Bluffing someday. Just wait for me to come back from training. Then we'll start over. That's when I knew she still didn't get it. She thought this was another one of our fights, another cycle. That I'd wait. That I'd always come back. But not this time. The thing about leaving quietly is that no one believes you mean it, not even the person you're leaving. Especially not her. Emily still thought I was sulking, thought I was playing the same game we always played, pull away, wait for her to chase, then fall back into orbit. But this time I wasn't bluffing, and she didn't realize that until it was already too late. I got the job offer from Dingxing in North City, finalized the paperwork, packed my life into a suitcase, and changed my phone number. I didn't even tell my closest classmates. I just told Uncle Daniel I'd be flying out a week early to settle in, and he insisted on going with me, saying he wanted to help me adjust, but really, he just didn't trust one was truly over her. On the flight, I watched the city shrink below me through the plane window, feeling like I was watching the last scene of a movie I never wanted to star in again. I registered a new social account, added only a few people, Nathan, my supervisor, 2 team leads. I kept it clean. Kept it mine. No ghosts, no Emily. Uncle Daniel stayed with me for the first week and then left once he was convinced I wasn't going to crumble. I wasn't. I loved the cool autumn mornings, the bite in the North City air, the rhythm of a life I got to set on my own terms. But of course, peace never lasts. A few days later, I was walking into an early meeting with a couple of senior associates when Nathan called, his voice tense, like he'd been holding back an avalanche. "James, something happened. Emily didn't show up to report at Funkton." My steps halted. "What?" "She went to your old place looking for you. Thought you were traveling. Then she saw you and Ryan Kim tagged in a newcomer mixer photo from that investment bank circle. You didn't see his posts, right? 'Cause you changed accounts. But man, he's been posting pictures of her every day, making it look like they're dating. Everyone in their circle thought she dumped you and upgraded to him." I was frozen, my mind stuck between disbelief and the kind of clarity that only comes when the train wreck's already happened. "And when she couldn't reach you or your uncle, she panicked," Nathan continued. "She went looking for you at our old school, talked to Professor Adams, found out you'd rejected Funkting's offer and joined Dingsheng. That hit her hard. I saw her yesterday. She looked wrecked. No makeup, hair a mess, barely coherent. Asked me straight up why you left. I told her to check Ryan's feed. Told her if she couldn't see the problem by now, maybe she didn't deserve to find you." I barely processed his last sentence because right then, as I turned the corner into the building, I saw her. Standing right there in the lobby, eyes hollow, skin pale, like someone who hadn't slept in days. Emily Carter, the same girl who used to light up rooms, was now a shell with dark circles and desperation in her stare. "James," my coworker said beside me, eyeing her warily, "do you know her?" "Old friend," I replied with a tight smile. "I'll catch up later." I walked past her. She grabbed my wrist. Her grip trembled. "James, we need to talk." I looked down at her but didn't stop. "I have a meeting. We'll talk afterward." I let her hand fall away and walked into the elevator, leaving her standing in that lobby, still waiting like she always assumed I'd circle back. When I came down 20 minutes later, she was still there, stiff and exhausted. "She doesn't look stable," my senior whispered. "Want me to get someone?" "No, I've got it," I said, leading her to the break room by the window. Her voice was dry and cracked. "I need an explanation." I didn't blink. "We broke up. Because of Ryan." "Because I helped him," she said, eyes narrowing like she was still trying to frame herself as the victim. "You made this decision without even saying goodbye. You left. We were supposed to build a life here." I scoffed. "Emily, you're my ex-girlfriend. I don't owe you a location report." Her voice cracked. "Is it that woman I saw earlier? The one in your department? You're dating her now?" I laughed without humor. "Wow. All that time with Ryan's head in your lap must have really improved your projection skills." I stood up, ready to walk away, but she grabbed my arm again. 18 years, James. You just threw it away over a resume?" I turned slowly. "No, Emily. I threw it away because I was the only one fighting for us. You got too comfortable thinking I wouldn't leave. You used Ryan like a crutch, and every time I asked you to choose, you chose to protect him." She was shaking now, like her body finally realized what her heart had been denying. "I thought we were solid," she whispered. "I thought we were forever." "I thought that too," I said. "Until the night I almost died and you didn't even answer the phone." Her breath hitched. What are you talking about?" May 15th. My uncle was out of town. My aunt was back home. I ordered seafood takeout and didn't realize it had crab powder. I'm allergic, remember? My throat closed up. I couldn't breathe. My vision blurred. I called you multiple times. No answer. I called 911 myself. Crawled to the door to open it. When the ambulance took me away, we passed right by your building. She stood frozen, lips parted. I didn't know. I swear, James, I didn't know. You said you put your phone on silent to help Ryan with a mock interview, I said, my tone flat. That was your reason. If I had known, she whispered, if I had even guessed, but you didn't, I interrupted. You were too busy helping him look good on paper to notice your boyfriend might be dying. She started crying, real tears now, the kind that don't come from guilt but from pure, bone-deep regret. James, I wasn't trying to replace you. I didn't love him. I never loved him. No, I said. You just loved that he worshipped you. You liked being needed. You liked playing savior. Her hand tried to reach mine again. I pulled back. Don't. I'll cut him off, she said quickly. I'll block him, change my number, whatever it takes. I'll change, James. Please. I shook my head slowly. The problem isn't Ryan, Emily. It's you. You didn't protect us. You just assumed I'd always be there. But I'm not anymore. Her sobs broke something in the silence. I planned everything for us. I was looking at homes, researching furniture, planning which flowers to plant on the balcony. I even had a list of real estate agents in my notes. I was going to surprise you when I sent you off for your first day of work. I was allergic to crab powder, I said quietly, and you were teaching Ryan's salary negotiation. Her knees buckled slightly as she collapsed into the chair. I thought I had time, she mumbled. I thought you'd wait. You had 18 years, I said. That was the time. She buried her face in her hands. Please, James. I can't lose you. Not like this. I didn't move. I couldn't. If I did, I might forget why I left. I might forget the long nights alone, the way it felt to come second to someone who didn't belong in our story. But I remembered. And that memory kept me standing. I'm not yours anymore, Emily. That's the truth. And you have to face it. As I walked out of the break room, I felt her gaze burn into my back. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Because if I did, I might hesitate. And I was done hesitating. Emily didn't take no for an answer, not the first time, not the 100th. After that conversation in the break room, I thought she'd finally let go, finally accept that I wasn't going to look back. But I underestimated her obsession with the version of us that no longer existed. She started showing up outside my office, waiting in the lobby every morning with iced Americanos, the kind I used to drink back in college. She remembered the brand, the ratio, even the fact that I preferred no sugar. At first, I ignored her. Then I told the security guard she wasn't authorized to be inside the building. She took the hint and started sitting in the cafe across the street, sometimes for hours, just watching, waiting, hoping. If I worked late, she'd order food and have it delivered anonymously to my floor. One night, she somehow got hold of an old access card and tried to get into the elevator. I had to tell HR to revoke all outside guest permissions. When it rained, she stood by the front door with an umbrella. When the temperature dropped, she brought scarves and thermal coffee flasks. All of it done silently, without a word, like she thought consistency would be enough to rewrite history. But I never responded. Not once. To everyone else in the office, she looked like the devoted ex-girlfriend out of some K-drama. Dude, one of my team members asked, why are you ghosting someone that fine? I smiled without explaining. I didn't owe anyone the story. The past was mine, and the scars were still fresh. She was never the villain in public, she was always the beautiful, tragic figure waiting for her cold, successful ex to forgive her. What they didn't see were the nights I called her and she didn't answer, the projects I fought through alone, the times she held Ryan's hand instead of mine. And the worst part? She thought she could just erase it all with coffee cups and apologies. A month passed, and nothing changed. Until the day of the industry mixer, when I met someone new. Her name was Olivia Harisa, partner at a top-tier law firm, confident, sharp, and intimidating in the best way. We discussed hedge fund loopholes and emerging market strategies like it was foreplay. After the mixer, she handed me her card and said, "We should grab coffee this weekend. You've got an interesting brain." I pocketed the card, and before I could even leave the hotel, I felt eyes on me. Emily. She was standing by the revolving doors, her face pale, lips trembling. She must have overheard Olivia's invitation. Her steps were hesitant, like she wanted to run but couldn't. And then she bolted toward me and grabbed my arm like we were still in high school, like the world hadn't burned down between us. "James, don't go out with her. Please. Don't do this." Her voice cracked. It was desperation, not confidence. I remembered the call I got the night before from her aunt. "James, I know you're not together anymore, but if Ryan keeps spending her days chasing you, she's going to lose her position at Bluffing. She's missed too much. Please talk some sense into her." I looked down at Emily now, tugging my arm like her life depended on it. "You need to go back," I said. "To your job, your family. This obsession, it's not love. It's denial." She shook her head violently. "It's not obsession. I love you. I still do." I gently pulled my arm free. "Then respect what I want. I'm not coming back." She didn't answer, but 3 days later, I heard from Uncle Daniel. "You need to come home, James. Now." My stomach sank. "What happened?" "It's that girl," he sighed. "She refuses to report to Bluffing, said she wants to quit and move to North City. Your grandparents are furious. And now she's on a hunger strike. You know, her stomach's been a mess since childhood. We had to bring in a specialist using our private clinic access." I closed my eyes. This wasn't love. This was emotional warfare disguised as loyalty. I booked the earliest flight back. When I walked into the Carter residence, Grandma Carter was crying. "You two were such a good pair. Why'd she go and ruin everything? Tell me what she did. I'll scold her myself." "It's not about scolding," I said gently. "It's over." I went upstairs. Outside her room stood Ryan Kim, holding a bowl of rice porridge. I nearly laughed at the irony. "You," I said flatly, "weren't you told not to come here again?" From inside the room, Emily's voice cracked like thunder. "Get out. I don't want to see you." Ryan stuttered. Uncle Carter's back was hurting. "I was just helping." "You don't get it, James. You're cruel. She's ruining herself for you. I can't sit by and watch." "Then leave," I snapped. "No one asked you to be a martyr." "At least I care," he said bitterly. "Have you ever cooked porridge for her? She always bought you snacks, remembered your allergies, pulled all-nighters for your deadlines. What have you done for her, James?" I stepped closer, my voice low and cold. "You think heating a bowl of congee makes you a saint? That recipe isn't sold anywhere. I created it. For her. Every summer, I went to our old country house, picked the herbs, watched the pot for hours, made sure the ratio was perfect so her stomach wouldn't flare up. While you were tagging her in cringy posts, I was dragging her to therapy after she had a breakdown during her second year. I canceled my internship, stayed in a cabin with no internet so she could recover. You have no idea what I gave up for her. So don't you dare question what I've done." He stood frozen, face white. Get out, Ryan, I said one last time. He turned and ran, bumping the desk on his way out. A pen stand fell to the floor. Emily flinched and scrambled to pick it up. It was the custom-made pen I'd given her for her 25th birthday, and when she twisted the cap off, she froze. Inside was the message I had engraved in microscript: "To my Emily, I want to write every chapter of our future with you. James." She clutched the pen like it was the last piece of me she still owned and broke into sobs. "I'll go to North City," she said through her tears. "I'll work hard. I'll start over. Just wait for me, please." I shook my head, voice calm. "Do you remember the day you waited outside my building and I never came down? That day I had a global call for a long-term London M&A assignment." She blinked. "What?" "I got it," I said. "I leave next month." Her eyes went dead quiet, the light dying in them slowly. "You're going abroad? You're really running that far from me?" "No," I said gently. "I'm running towards something for the first time in years. I finally realized that being alone doesn't mean being empty. It means being free to build something that's mine." "But what about us?" she whispered. "There is no us," I said. "There's you, and there's me. And we both deserve to figure out who we are outside of each other." She tried to speak, but I had nothing more to give. Not explanations. Not comfort. I stood, and for a moment, just watched her crumble. "You'll be okay," I said. "You were always strong, Emily. You just forgot." And then I walked away, not out of anger, but out of peace, finally understanding that letting go wasn't the same as losing. After I returned to North City, I buried myself in work like a man on a mission. The London assignment was set in motion, my passport renewal came through, and every day felt like a countdown to the next chapter of my life, one that didn't involve Emily Carter or the baggage I'd carried since I was a kid. And yet, every weekend without fail, she came. She flew from South City to North City and waited in the same cafe across from my apartment, sometimes sitting there for hours with her laptop open but untouched, eyes constantly drifting toward the front door like she hoped I'd walk in. She never knocked. She never texted. She just sat there in silence, like a broken vinyl record stuck on the part of our story she refused to let end. I ignored her presence at first, told myself she was just a ghost clinging to routine, but I couldn't ignore the pain behind her eyes every time I stepped out of the building with someone else. I had started saying yes to more things: more after-work drinks, more networking dinners, more chances to meet people who didn't know my history or hold it over me. There were new faces, new conversations, women who smiled at me not because I was familiar, but because I was interesting, capable, someone worth their time in the now, not just someone who belonged to their past. Every time I laughed with a colleague, every time someone handed me a business card with a lingering touch or asked to grab coffee sometime, Emily watched from across the street with clenched fists and reddened eyes. She never caused a scene. That wasn't her style. But the silence screamed louder than any confrontation. She still sent texts, soft, quiet messages filled with memories and regrets. I never blocked her. I just stopped replying. Because when you know you're not going back, the kindest thing you can do is stop giving someone false hope. A month before my London departure, I went back to South City to finalize some family documents with Uncle Daniel. That's when I heard the full story about Ryan Kim. Apparently, he'd been exposed after spreading rumors that he and Emily were a couple. She found out through someone in their alumni circle and stormed into the investment bank's elite community chat to deny everything. She even had their internal platform issue a public clarification, stating that she had only one real relationship: her childhood sweetheart, James Walker. My name. She made sure they knew it. The backlash was instant. Ryan became the joke of the entire finance junior circle. Everyone said he was delusional, a guy from a modest background who mistook kindness for love and tried to play above his league. His pride couldn't handle it. He messed up multiple projects, made a dumb accounting mistake that nearly cost his team millions, and the firm dropped him like a bad trade. When the Carters found out he had forged sections of his resume and exaggerated his achievements, most of which Emily had helped him polish, they had enough. He and his father tried to demand some kind of compensation from the Carter family, but Mr. Carter Sr. had the cops involved within the hour. Uncle Daniel mentioned all this over dinner like he was reading a news report, but I knew he brought it up for a reason. "That girl," he said, referring to Emily, "she came to the reunion last month. You weren't there, and she looked completely lost. She's not the same person. So thin she looks like a gust of wind could knock her over. No spark in her eyes anymore. You really raised her too well, James. She doesn't know how to live without you." I didn't say anything. Because what could I say? That I'd spent years loving someone who didn't know how to choose me until I was already gone. That maybe I still cared, but not enough to undo the distance I'd fought so hard to create. I thought that would be the end of it. But then I saw her again at the airport. I was on my way back to North City, and she was standing by the security gate, wrapped in that same beige windbreaker we picked out together at a department store 2 years ago. It hung off her now like it belonged to someone else. Her figure was so gaunt I almost didn't recognize her. "I've been in the hospital," she said softly before I could speak. My stomach finally gave out. Stress. Lack of food. The usual. "I'm fine now." Her voice cracked, but she kept standing straight. She handed me a small envelope. I wrote down the full porridge recipe. All the ingredients, exact prep, and even the local herb store I used to buy from. "I gave a copy to your aunt too. Just in case. You probably won't make it for me anymore, but maybe one day. Someone else will need it." Her eyes were watery, but she didn't let a tear fall. I also looked into private medical concierge services. There's a brochure in the envelope. I highlighted the best ones. You can ignore it if you want, I just thought it was something you'd care about. I nodded, took the envelope, and slid it into my backpack. "Thank you." She stared at me for a moment, like she was memorizing my face. "So you're leaving?" I nodded. "Uncle Daniel's seeing me off this afternoon. I have one last onboarding call, then I'm gone." She hesitated. "Can I come see you in London? Just once. Maybe after you settle in." Her voice was barely above a whisper, filled with the kind of pleading that once would have cracked me open. "But not now." I smiled gently, the kind of smile you give someone you used to dream about. "It's too far, Emily. Don't trouble yourself." Her shoulders dropped, but she nodded. "Right. Too far." I started walking toward the security line. "Goodbye, Emily." She didn't say anything until I turned back one last time. "Goodbye, James," she whispered, holding back tears like she had no right to cry anymore. And just like that, I crossed the threshold into a new life, the sunlight slicing through the terminal windows, casting golden rays across the floor like some dramatic metaphor I didn't ask for but couldn't ignore. Years ago, on a morning like this, I told her we'd see the world together. Now, I was seeing it alone, and for the first time, that didn't feel like a tragedy. It felt like freedom. Like finally, I was no longer someone orbiting someone else's world. I was the sun. And maybe, just maybe, that was how it was always supposed to be. London was colder than I expected, not just in weather, but in pace, in rhythm, in the way people carried themselves like they had somewhere better to be at all times, and somehow, that fit me perfectly. I blended in, anonymous and unbothered, a man whose past existed on a different continent, thousands of miles away, tangled in memories that no longer held me hostage. I moved into a clean, modern apartment with high ceilings and no shadows. Every piece of furniture I chose myself. No old toothbrushes in the bathroom, no pictures hanging on the walls that weren't mine. The first night, I sat by the window, watching the city lights flicker like a map of new possibilities, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel haunted. Work consumed me in the best way. The overseas M&A team didn't care about my past, only my performance, and I delivered. Late nights turned into early mornings, new deals rolled in, and I started building something real, something solid. I stopped checking my old accounts. I stopped wondering if Emily was still flying up every weekend. But the past has its own way of chasing you, and it found me one rainy afternoon at a networking event hosted by one of our British partners. Olivia Harris was there again, still sharp, still radiant, and this time she wasn't just here to flirt, she wanted to poach me for a side venture. As we talked, a young intern approached me, holding a clipboard and clearly nervous. "Mr. Walker," she said, "someone dropped this off for you earlier." She handed me a small, worn envelope with no return name but unmistakable handwriting. I opened it cautiously. Inside was a short note: "I stopped coming. You never looked, but I thought you should know. I started therapy. I got a dog. Her name is Clover. I'm learning how to be someone outside of you. Thank you for walking away when I wouldn't. It saved me. Love always, E." I stood there for a long time, frozen, the edges of the paper slightly damp from where the envelope had caught the rain. I didn't know how it had reached me. Maybe she asked someone. Maybe she mailed it to the firm and crossed her fingers. Either way, it didn't matter. I folded it once, tucked it into my wallet, and went back to the conversation with Olivia like nothing had happened. Because it had just not now. It had happened a long time ago, when I left that coffee shop and didn't turn back. That was the goodbye that mattered. The rest was just echoes. Over time, I heard bits and pieces through mutual friends. Emily didn't take the job in North City. She stayed in South City, took a demotion, and started over in a quieter department. She rented a small place on her own, furnished it with second-hand items, and never dated Ogden, at least not publicly. Ryan Kim vanished from the industry completely, moved out of the city, and was last seen working at a small local firm where no one cared about his past. It felt like poetic justice. One day, months later, I received a package at my London office. No name, no sender. Just a sleek black case with a gold clasp. Inside was the pen I had custom-made for her birthday, the one with our promises etched beneath the cap. The one I thought she'd lost or thrown away. But there it was, wrapped in velvet, perfectly intact. No note, no explanation. Just the pen, and silence. I stared at it for a while, ran my thumb over the engraving, read the tiny sentences I'd written when I still believed in forever. "Ryan, happy graduation. I've tried my best to get closer to your future. As for the reward, how about a kiss? Dear, I'm tired of being called your boyfriend. Want to try something more permanent like husband? Today's the day we move into our new home. Tell me what color you picked for the balcony flowers. Ryan, I found a white hair. Don't laugh. Can I meet you first in the next life? If you're reading this, we must have spent a lifetime together. Here's to stamping our next lifetime, too." I closed the pen, placed it gently in my desk drawer, and never opened it again. Not because it hurt, but because it didn't anymore. That was the ending. And endings, real ones, don't need explosions or grand gestures. They just need peace. I never replied to the package. She never sent anything else. That was our truce. A year passed. Then 2. I traveled more, took bigger projects, got invited to panels, built my name from scratch in a country where no one had ever whispered Emily Carter's name behind mine. And I liked it that way. I learned to cook again, not porridge, but real food: steak, pasta, risotto. I dated. I laughed. I healed. Sometimes, I'd think of her when I saw snow fall just right or passed by someone playing the piano on the street. But it wasn't pain. It was a quiet nod to a version of me that used to need her. A version that no longer existed. And one day, as I sat on a rooftop overlooking the Thames, sipping coffee and watching the sky shift from orange to lavender, I realized something. She wasn't the girl who ruined me. She was the girl who taught me how far I could break without dying. The girl who unknowingly handed me back my freedom by taking me for granted one too many times. And in her own way, I think she knew that. I still carry that final letter in my wallet, not because I hope to see her again, but because it reminds me of how far I've come. Of the boy who waited too long, the man who finally let go, and the life I'm living now because of both. They say heartbreak shapes you, but I think it reveals you. And what it revealed in me is strength. So here's to the girl I loved, to the version of us that almost was, and to the future that never included her but still turned out just fine. Goodbye, Emily Carter. I hope wherever you are, you found your own sunrise. I found mine.